Okay, I'm going to talk about conspiracy theories. Now, I'm not going to look at any particular conspiracy theory too deeply. I will provide one example just to kind of make a point, but the point of this video is to basically recognize that conspiracy theories are becoming more prevalent, right? And I think we need to ask why that is. Why are conspiracy theories becoming more prevalent? Well, it's the example I'm going to use is these COVID vaccines, right? There's anti-vaxxers out there, right? And a lot of them are making anything from reasonable theories about these vaccines and some alternative motives the pharmaceutical industry and the media may have, to wild conspiracy theories, right? About vaccines magnetizing people or something like that. So if we look at the stuff we have evidence for in this case, that basically big pharma is working with the mainstream media corporations, particularly on the left, and we know this, right? Pfizer is sponsored by just about every mainstream media platform on the left. And if we look at that, and then we look at the way the government pushed these vaccines and mandated them on government employees, right, and beyond, and then in conjunction, again, the mainstream media in conjunction with the government, they pushed that these vaccines were safe and effective and even necessary. And the end result of that is it created a social movement in private companies, right? In companies, and now you have most of the companies around the country and the world who require employees to get vaccines. Otherwise, you're not going to have an employment anymore. And again, it's not just the government policy that's the problem. It's the fact that the government, in conjunction with the mainstream media, was able to create a social movement that extended beyond government authority, that extended beyond direct policy from the government, which essentially convinced, again, private employers to force these vaccines on people. And again, even if we assume that these COVID vaccines are safe and effective, even if they're 100% effective, which we know they're not, say they're 100% effective though, the authoritarian policies and the social movements that make people choose between getting a vaccine and getting fired, when you make people choose between that, it creates fear, right? It creates a perception that people don't have control over their own bodies. And when you do that, it's going to lead to conspiracy theories. Okay, that's my point here, is that when you try to exert authoritarian control over people, they're going to get fearful, and in effect, the conspiracy theories are a function of authoritarian policies. People don't like being controlled. It's not healthy for people, and this goes for anybody, and it's the same way with abortion. If someone tells you that you can't get an abortion, if someone tells a woman they can't get an abortion, it makes you fearful, right? And it makes you search for perhaps conspiracy theories that explain this anti-abortion movement. But beyond that, there's another bit I'd like to touch on here, and it's the censorship, which is another form of authoritarianism, right? When you go on any social media platform, as many people did on Facebook and whatnot, and you speak against these vaccines and you get censored for it, it just fuels the fire of these conspiracy theories. It creates fear. If people aren't allowed to speak their mind about something, it's going to make the problem worse. If you want to convince people, the most amount of people possible, that these vaccines are healthy and safe and effective, and that people should get them, if you want to convince people of that, you need to allow your opposition to speak. Because when you don't allow your opposition to speak, despite what you think, despite the fact that you may think you are stopping the spread of misinformation, what you're actually doing is you're fueling the spread of misinformation. Because again, you're creating fear in people, and that fear leads them to dig deeper into their beliefs. It does not make people look at things objectively. The minute people become fearful because you're exerting control over them is the moment they stop thinking logically. So if you want more people to look at the science, if you want more people to, as this in this example, to take vaccines, you need to stop censoring them. You need to stop controlling them and forcing them into these vaccines. If you allow people to make their own decisions, they will be more willing to look at the evidence, okay, and make decisions based on that evidence. So, as someone who wasn't vaccinated myself, personally, I was looking at the evidence of the COVID vaccine, and it seemed like, yeah, it helped marginally, right? But it mostly helped older people, and I was young, I was healthy, and when I got COVID, I got over COVID in 24 hours. And I credit my diet to that, my diet and exercise. And if you take the choice from people and put a blanket recommendation to all people just because it helps the most vulnerable people, then again, you're going to create fear in people, and it's going to cause people to look to conspiracy theories for answers. Now, again, I don't believe in the conspiracy theories around the COVID vaccine. I do believe that Big Pharma and the mainstream media have manipulated people, and I believe that manipulation has made the problem worse, though. That's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, that's just how logic works. We cannot use control. We cannot use authoritarian policy. We cannot use censorship to censor misinformation in order to make our point more prevalent. If you haven't caught on to the pattern yet, all of this censorship is only making things worse. And if you look at what Elon Musk has done with Twitter, it seems like every step he does is to decrease the censorship on the platform. And what that ends up doing from a business perspective is it runs ad revenue away, right? These advertisers leave the platform, and then people look at his ownership of Twitter, the way he's running Twitter, and they say, he's an idiot, right? Elon Musk is going to tank Twitter. He's going to run it into the ground. But the reason he purchased Twitter wasn't to make money, obviously, okay? If you haven't figured that out yet, then maybe you should look, because if he wanted to make money, he would just appease all of the advertisers. He bought Twitter because Twitter is a huge platform. It's a huge disseminator of information, and he wanted to diminish the censorship on a platform that disseminates information in order to ease the fear that people have when authorities and when social media platforms censor them. Okay, censorship is a huge problem, and if you haven't recognized the pattern yet, the censorship is leading to the radicalism. It is censorship is causing radicalism. It causes people to dig in deeper to their beliefs and even radicalize even further. We can't keep ignoring this pattern, because if we do, we're going to end up with two very radicalized opposing parties, or two opposing groups of people that align with the left and right policies, and it's going to lead to authoritarianism in the long run, because when you fear your opposition so much, when the left fears the right, and the right fears the left, they seek control over each other through government policy, and the government obliges both sides, and it's like a game of authoritarian leapfrog. That's a concept I touch on a lot. Bottom line is that these conspiracy theories are misinformation, right? But that misinformation is going to grow if you try to censor the conspiracy theories. You need to let people talk, because when people can talk freely, they feel more comfortable. They feel safer, and when they feel safer, they start to think more logically. So the point of this video is to convince you to encourage free thought. And the thing is you can say whatever you want out loud, right? No one's going to stop you. Maybe you get punished for it, physically, for saying the wrong thing in the wrong places, right? But these social media platforms have kind of become the old public square, right? If we keep denying this reality, and we keep allowing these social media platforms to basically censor the public square, we're going to lose our First Amendment. We're going to lose our freedom of speech. And that's kind of already happened. And that's actually the cause of many of our problems today. The cause of our problems is that we are no longer freely sharing thoughts and ideas. Our thoughts and ideas are being manipulated on this technology that we are communicating with. And as that manipulation increases, we become increasingly radicalized, and we become increasingly fearful, and we become less capable of seeing that reality. We become less capable of thinking logically. So again, censorship leads to conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories are a function of censorship. Conspiracy theories are a function of authoritarian policies. Look for that pattern, and you will see it play out in spades. It's everywhere. So give that a little thought. Thanks for watching.